Hello and welcome back. The first video of this new playlist is an introduction to the famous book by Sigmund Freud, titled Mass Psychology and Analysis of the I. Ready? Let's begin. The antithesis between individual and social or mass psychology, which at first glance may seem to us very important, loses a great deal of its sharpness on close examination. Individual psychology is of course directed at the person in isolation, tracing the ways in which he seeks to satisfy his drive impulses, but only rarely in specific exceptions is it able to disregard the relationships between that individual and others. In the mental life of the individual, the other comes very regularly into consideration as model. Object, aid, and antagonist. At the same time, therefore, and from the outset, the psychology of the individual is also social psychology in this extended but wholly justified sense. The individual's relationships with his parents and siblings, love object, teacher, and doctor, in other words, all the ties that have hitherto formed the preferential targets of psychoanalytical investigations, can claim to be ranked as social phenomena, which sets them in opposition to certain other processes, called by us narcissistic, in which drive satisfaction eludes or forgoes the influence of others. The antithesis between social and narcissistic, Bleuler might say autistic mental acts, thus falls very much within the sphere of individual psychology, and does not lend itself to distinguishing the latter from social or mass psychology. In the said relationships with parents and siblings, lover, friend, teacher, and doctor, the individual invariably experiences only the influence of one or a very small number of persons, each of whom has acquired enormous importance for him. The fact is, people have got into the habit, when discussing social or mass psychology, of disregarding these ties and treating the simultaneous influencing of the individual by a large number of persons with whom he has some sort of connection, whereas in many other respects they may be strangers to him, as a separate object of investigation. In other words, mass psychology deals with the individual as member of a tribe, people, caste, class institution, or as one element in an assemblage of human beings who, at a particular time, and for a specific purpose, have organized themselves into a mass. Following this rupture of a natural context, the obvious next step was to regard the phenomena that emerge in such special conditions as manifestations of a special drive not susceptible of being traced back further, the social drive, or herd instinct, or group mind, which does not come out in other situations. However, we may well object that we find it difficult to attribute such great importance to the numerical factor as to make it possible for number alone to rouse a new and otherwise unactivated drive in the life of the human mind. Our expectations will thus be directed towards two other possibilities: that the social drive is perhaps not an original, irreducible one, and that the origins of its formation may be found in a smaller circle, that of the family, for instance. Mass psychology, although it is only in its earliest stages, embraces a still incalculable wealth of individual problems and sets the investigator innumerable tasks that have not even been properly separated as yet. Merely classifying the various forms of mass formation and defining the psychical phenomena to which they give expression require a major effort of observation and description and have already given rise to a copious literature. Anyone measuring this slim booklet against the great bulk of mass psychology will have every right to suppose that the intention here is to deal with only a few points from all this material. There will indeed be only a small number of questions in which the depth research of psychoanalysis takes a particular interest. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to check the books available in our link in the description. There you'll find many fundamental marketing books in different languages. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more psychology-related content. See you in the next one.